My name is Marilyn Chesterman, and I live in Paradise, California. I am retired, and I have a lot of hobbies that I do. I like to paint. I do watercolors, and that's a really big joy to me. I also love to read, and I love to make cards, and I'm an all-around craft type person. Growing up, food was always a big deal. Big Sunday dinners with the roast and the mashed potatoes and gravy, which I have always loved. And of course, we always had desserts because that was a big thing. So that has been what has caused my weight issue. Plus, because I love sugars, it brought me into, in my later years, diabetes. First, I had heard for years pre-diabetic, so I just kind of thought, okay, I'm pre-diabetic. I don't have to worry about this. It's not that big of a deal. I really was in denial a lot. And then when I was told I was a diabetic, it was a shock. I went through the classes at the hospital up here to learn about how to do it, but it still wasn't in my head that I was really diabetic, and the implications that would cause. So it's been, for me, in the last 6 to 8 years that I've been dealing with this kind of an issue. I really can't remember too many symptoms other than I felt tired a lot. My feet would hurt. I would get that tingling. And I remember my mom having that kind of a problem, like she called it pinching toes. So I've had that. I've had the weight issue has been a big problem, and that is always a problem with being a diabetic. So it's been, my doctor's been after me for years to go on a program to lose weight as well as an exercise program, but pretty much I just kind of sloughed it off and didn't give it as much information or time as I should have. Well, I was seeing a chiropractor down in Oroville, which is down the road a ways from here, and he kept telling me that I did need to work on getting off this weight and everything, and it was a concern to him, and I still wasn't there in my head at all. I just kind of thought, well, I take my medicines and it seems to be working and everything. I wasn't even doing my blood sugars. I just was really ignoring the whole thing. The things that were coming up to me were my girls and my husband and my family, a sister of mine that lives in Canada. They were all saying that they were going to outlive me because of me being a diabetic and on these medications. And it was really kind of hurtful to think that I was going to die before them. And that's what they were believing. And it was starting to get to be kind of a reality that maybe I needed to do something different in my life. As to seeing my doctor, I actually see a nurse practitioner at my doctor's office, and she had been on my case for quite a while that I needed to make some changes with my life because of being diabetic, that things could get bad for me if I didn't take care of myself, and she really, really would push that I needed to be exercising, that I needed to be losing weight. She even signed papers for me to go to Weight Watchers and get into a eating program that would be healthy for me. I was doing water aerobics, and I thought, well, I'm doing that. So, but I kept eating the way I've always eaten, and pretty much hadn't gotten on to the right track yet. Options for treating my diabetes were to be on medication. In fact, I was on two, and seemed to be doing okay. I would have my 3-month visits with her, and she would have the blood workup done and still concerned because my A1Cs were going a little high, and that I really should be doing something about this, being a little bit more serious about it. My greatest fear was that I was going to be like everybody was telling me, I was going to die before them. And I have two new little grandkids that I wanted to be part of their life. I wanted to be able to get on the floor, play with them, and enjoy being around them. And I didn't want to die. I wanted to see them grow up, and I have two daughters that I wanted to see them go through life, and the joy of watching them get older as well. I wanted to be around, and I was scared that maybe these people saying I was going to die before them were really speaking the truth. My nurse practitioner wanted me to, first of all, do these classes through the hospital up here for diabetes, and I did that. She wanted me to get on a food program, and I tried. I tried and I tried, and I just couldn't seem to get there. And I kept having, I was on medicine, so I figured, okay, this is taking care of it. I just didn't want to not be around for my family. So I still hadn't hit that point, though, that this was really a reality. First, I was on one medication, and it seemed to be doing okay, I thought. But then when I would have these blood workups, my doctor wasn't at all happy. And so I was put on to another one. And I had been on one medication that she changed that one. So it was kind of a constant, like, what am I going to do with this, And I felt like it would, I was tired a lot, awfully tired. And then I was having issues with not sleeping, and shaky hands and restless legs, and I just seemed to be not getting anywhere. But I was on my medicine and figuring, okay, still not testing myself though. First, my chiropractor, I guess I must have been talking to him about the diabetes, and he said, there's this doctor that's going to be in Chico Friday night, and you should go to it. And I thought, all right, well, so I called. I made an appointment thinking, what's it going to hurt, And then I called back the next day and said, can my husband come? Because then I thought, sometimes I don't get all the information, so I'll have him come along. So I went to that Friday night meeting, and Dr. Gala got up there and started talking about side effects of medications and people who are diabetic having amputations of toes. Pretty much he just scared me. And then he would talk about, well, if you have this food, do you know how many salads you have to eat to make up for that food? And I thought, well, I'm not going to do that many salads. Maybe I need to do something. But, he was very interesting. And then, of course, he introduced his mother. And I looked at her and I thought, well, if she can do it, she's my age. After all, I should be able to, I want to look like her. I want to be healthy. I wasn't going to jog like she jogs, but I wanted to get better. So we made an appointment to speak with Dr. Gala the next day and talk about what we were going to do and whether it was going to work for me. And he asked me, so if you have a planned out program, does that work good for you? And I said, that's what really works for me, is to have something written down as to what to do. And so I signed up and I started. My first night was like, well, I have everything wrong in my house. I can't eat those things anymore. And so we had to do a major shopping the next day and get the right foods in here so that I could be eating right. And from that day on, it was really, I have to say, easy for me because I followed the program, I did the recipes, I just went week by week. And in the first month, I was off my first medication. And so I thought, well, that's working. So I just kept up doing the recipes. I learned some really great tips, some really, to this day, I will use these recipes for a long time. Some things I just said, no, I can't do that one, but I knew what to do if it was something I couldn't eat. And so the next month, and I just kept losing every day. Every week I had a loss, and I was eating on program. And the next month, I got off my next medication. And the great thing was I had these life coaches to talk to when I had something I didn't understand. They helped me figure it out, and doing always on top of me to get my water in because that has been a hard thing. But I try as best as I can to do my water, and I know how important that is. And I have done, I am actually at my 4 months, which is what I signed up for. I have lost 29 pounds out of the 30 that I said I wanted to lose. And I feel so good. I have energy. I don't even need to sleep I used to sleep in, and that's not what I grew up ever doing, and now I don't do that. I have more energy to do the things that I love to do, and I have walking group that I walk with, so I'm out there working on getting healthy, and it has been a life change for me. I never had any hesitation about this. Once I had the program in front of me, I sat down with my book every day and figured out what I was going to do. On Sunday nights, I checked out my weekly schedule of food program. I never had any days that I didn't feel I couldn't do this. It just worked for me. It was like I was supposed to be doing this, and it was just the right time in my life. I wanted to change things, so it worked for me. My biggest questions about the program were that, do I really have to take all these supplements all the time? Getting them in, but I do it as best as I can. Pretty much, I didn't have any questions or doubts. I just knew this was the right time in my life. I was ready for this, and it worked. Probably saw signs of improvement in my first few weeks because the scale was going down. I was checking my blood sugar every day, and it was like amazing how better it was. I was on top of it. I knew when maybe I ate late, it would affect it. It would be up a little bit the next day. Or if I didn't eat enough, it all shows up on the when you're testing your blood sugars. So for me, this has been the right program, the right time. I weighed 182 pounds when I started, and the word obese is on your name at that stage, and I hated that word. It was just a word that I didn't like being called that. So knowing I was losing weight all along, and heading towards my goal, I couldn't believe how easy I was losing weight. There was never a time that there was a gain. I'm plateauing right now, but it was always dropping off. My life coach was surprised how well I was doing. And so was I surprised how well I was doing, but it worked. One of the things that I always wanted to be able to do with having little grandkids, 3 and 1, I wanted to be able to get down on the floor with them. And I mean, I had to get up off of that floor. That was just not going to be an easy thing to do. In fact, I remember being in a store, a craft store, and I couldn't see what I was looking at on the bottom shelf, so I had to get down on my knees, and I knew that I was kind of worried about how I was going to get up, and I had to lean on the shelf to get up. And of course, the shelf came down, very embarrassing. It was kind of like the final straw as to I needed to do something. But I go walking now and I don't get out of breath. It's easy for me to walk 2 miles with my friends, even uphill on the walking paths here. And it's such a good feeling to be able to know I can get out there and walk and I'm not huffing and puffing. I can even visit while I'm walking. So it's been encouraging. My energy level from the beginning, well, when I first started, it was like 1 being really low and 10 high. I was probably down by 1. And as I went through this program, it would progress up the scale. Now I would say I'm at least a 9. Sometimes better than that, but I know that I can get out there and I can do the things that I want to do the most. I can go all day and not be so tired that I can't do anything else unless I take a rest, but that doesn't happen much anymore. Even though I wasn't like over 200 pounds, for me it was hard to get up, to do things, to get on the floor and do things. So it was probably at a 10 at that time. I hurt. I had shaky hands. I mean, my daughters would say, "Mom, your hands are shaking." I didn't know they were shaking, but then they would point it out to me, and yes, indeed they were. I had the restless leg at night, and way before I was even going to bed, my legs were bothering me, but not anymore. I have a little shaking in my hands, but it's never even close to what it used to be. The legs don't bother me at night anymore. I just go to bed. I would like to go to bed and just go to sleep, but that doesn't always happen. But it's not because my legs are bothering me. The food in Dr. Gala's program is really good. I only use his salad dressing recipes because it's our favorite. My husband eats just like I do at dinner time. I don't have to fix 2 different meals. The recipes are the best. There's been a couple that I have said, no, I'm not going to make that ever again. I've made the chocolate recipes and thinking, oh boy, this is going to be good. No, not so much. But for some people, maybe yes. Anyways, it's not something that I need to have in my diet, so I'm not worried about that. But I have quite a few of the recipes that I make. They are going to be part of my life. And I have made it known to myself that I need to stick with this. It is not something, okay, now I'm done. I can go back to the way I was, because I don't want to be in that position ever again. I want to be healthy. Dr. Gala's program, the most helpful to me was actually having it mapped out so that I could look at the weekly food plan and know what to choose from. We did our grocery shopping ahead of time, so I always had everything that I was going to need. I would I spent a lot more time in the beginning in the kitchen than I do now because it was so new to me and I'd have to read the recipes and everything. But I was so glad to have them because losing weight and eating right for me is nicely mapped out. I never had to worry. If it was something that I knew that I wouldn't like, I knew I could go back to another week, not ahead, but back to follow some of the other things that I had made. The hardest part of following Dr. Gala's program is the fact that I live on salads pretty much. Going out to a restaurant and making the right choices don't always come out. Sometimes you get into a place that's not going to have exactly what you need, but I know my tools of what I should have, and I try as best as I can. Speaking with my life coaches, they tell me, you do this, this, and this, and you just tell people what you want. It's not, okay, could you? It's, this is what I need. So becoming more forceful about myself and speaking for myself as to doing what's right. Sometimes you have the head game that, well, maybe I want to try something else. Maybe I don't want to do this salad today, but in the long run, you do it anyways because you know it's what's best for you. The protein is always top of I must have my protein. And I know that no matter what, I've got to have a protein, even if it's maybe not everything I should have that's going to be on there. I get that protein in. And then learning to really like vegetables and salads, but sometimes breakfast has always been kind of a deal for me because I go walking first thing in the morning, but I do my protein drink and then I am okay. I have learned some places that I can eat that I come in and they say, oh, the usual, and I go, yeah. And it's always, I try to get my meat, chicken often, or steak, and then I go for veggies. And I really love to do the tomato. That is one of the things that I have really learned to enjoy veggies and salads and that kind of thing. And I've learned to be more creative with my salads than just boring. Seeing my nurse practitioner, first of all, before I even started Dr. Gala's program, I showed her the book. I said, this is what I want to do. What's your opinion? And she was for me to do it. She liked it. She thought it was doable. It was going to be good for me. And so just even weighing in the first time, I always hated that scale at the doctor's office, but it would go down. And then she'd see me and she'd come in and she'd be so excited about how I was looking, and I always had to do my blood workups before, and of course I don't remember the A1Cs, but she was really happy with how things were going for me, and I've seen her another time since then, and it's just always a big improvement, and she knows that I am happy and what I am doing is working. And when she took me off of my medications, she was very pleased. She didn't say, well, you need to be on this, I don't want you to be off. No, she has taken me off of those medicines and told me I am now pre-diabetic. I will always be pre-diabetic, which gives me information in my head that I have to really be careful about what I do, because it's always going to be there, and I do not want to go back on those meds at all. Well, I have to say, looking forward, I feel so healthy. I'm wearing different sizes of clothing that I haven't worn in years. It feels good to feel good. I do not want to get back into those old patterns, because thinking about it, I've thought about how I felt when I had those other foods. I felt awful. I had stomach upsets. I don't want to ever have to deal with any of that anymore. So I'm looking at this as a life change. And I would really like to be like my life coaches and say, well, I've been on this for 10 years. So that's my goal, is to keep on keeping on. Well, I highly would recommend Dr. Gala's program to anybody who is a diabetic. In fact, I have talked to people about it. Well, I can't do that. Well, they really need to take uh, themselves in control. They need to think about where they're going to be, how they feel. Do they like being on that medication for the rest of their life? Do they want to keep on with this diabetes and start having to do insulin? Really, who wants that in their life? Who wants to have a toe amputated because of diabetes? Who wants to lose a foot? Who wants to be sitting in a wheelchair for the rest of their life? I really cannot say enough about his program. I know that for me it's been a real life change. I believe everything that is going on. I believe that I couldn't have made any better decisions for my life than doing this. I would like to say to Dr. Gala that I was very, very pleased with his program. I feel like he saved my life with this program, because everybody telling me I wasn't going to live long. I want to tell Dr. Gala that he saved me. He saved me from having amputations. He saved me from a life of maybe becoming on to having to take insulin. He saved my life, got me off medicines that weren't good for me, that I probably shouldn't have been taking in the beginning. But what did I know about it? So as to Dr. Gala's mother, she was such an inspiration to me. When I saw her come in the door at the meeting and I found out she was my age, she looked so young. I could not believe that she was my age, looking like she did, jogging the way she does every day. I wanted it. I really wanted it. So I have to thank her so much, because she's been an influence, and I love watching her Monday programming. I'm not here to do it, but I always look at it later in the day.